Well, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all of you. Well, as you know, yesterday, December 29, important documents were issued after a lengthy process of talks which took place in Ankara with the help of the Turkish authorities. The Russian representatives negotiated a deal with opposition representatives, and of course we were also talking to the Syrian government about establishing a ceasefire regime in Syria and also restarting the political negotiations about both the government and the opposition groups forming their two delegations and coming to Astana to start negotiating directly to each other. And last night we circulated, together with the Turkish delegation, we circulated those documents among the members of the Security Council as official documents of the Security Council, and also circulated a brief draft resolution of the Security Council, hoping that the Security Council will endorse those arrangements. Today we had, I think, a very useful and constructive discussion in consultation where we explained the deal and answered some questions of our colleagues in the Security Council. They made some recommendations to improve the text of the draft. I'm going to be in touch with my Turkish colleague right away. I think those recommendations can be easily absorbed into the draft. So our intention is to make those additions to the text and then to put the text in blue and to go for a vote tomorrow morning.
This agreement, ceasefire agreement, does it cover all of Syria? Everyone is fighting in Syria except ISIS. Does it cover Jabhat al-Nusra, especially around Damascus?
Of course, Jabhat al-Nusra and ISIL are not covered by this cessation of hostilities deal. The fight against them must continue. You know, the whole arrangement is recorded on the maps. This is, I think, a very serious distinction from what we had before. You might recall that the entire year we spent with the United States discussing the possibility of separating the moderate opposition from Jabhat al-Nusra and ISIL, but the United States, the US representatives were always extremely elusive about the actual location of the so-called moderate opposition. Our suspicion was that they were not able to separate Nusra from the so-called moderate opposition groups they have been supporting. But now it has been accomplished. Now our military have a clear understanding of who is who and who is where. And as you know, as part of this package of documents, special arrangements have been created for the two guarantors, Russia and Turkey, to observe the cessation of hostilities. So this is where it stands.
I saw a report that they have some reservations about the deal, and also Jaish al-Islam. Are they
well,
part of this?
You know, the thing is that 13. The counting of the groups is very complicated, as you know. Our understanding is that 7 major groups have joined in this arrangement. Stefan de Mistura, as you know, counted as many as 98 different groups fighting in Syria. The relationship between those groups is sometimes very complicated. But the thing is that in those documents, there are 13 groups, 13 armed groups, who delegated to 2 gentlemen who are named in the annex to the documents, who delegated the authority to sign the agreement on their behalf, which they did. The agreement about forming the delegation of the opposition. So by our count, those groups represent 60,000 fighters, and they control a large chunk of the territory of Syria.
Ambassador, I want to ask, since you are aware of the details of this agreement, are the Kurdish groups included in this ceasefire? And what, given the Turkey's role in making of this agreement, what has the role of the Kurds in Syria been discussed, especially because they are controlling a large territory in northern Syria?
Well, I'll have to go back and look at the list to try to answer your question.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Could you tell us how the meeting scheduled in Astana in late January between the Syrian government and the opposition is going to play into the talks that Staffan de Mistura, the UN envoy, has called for February 8th. Is this going to be an overlap? Is there going to be some kind of a competition?
No, there is no competition. As you know, Staffan de Mistura has been in touch with us. He indicated his eagerness to help organize the Astana meetings. He talked with our foreign minister, I think, the other day. So we expect the United Nations to be fully involved in the preparations of the meetings in Astana. And if they are successful, they could move on to Geneva, as far as I am concerned. So we don't see any competition there or overlapping of the two processes. As you know, Staffan de Mistura had trouble reconvening the talks. So Russia and Turkey obviously decided to give the United Nations a hand in pushing things forward. And this is what we see happening.
Mr. Ambassador, I would like to know your reaction on the U.S. government decision to expel some of your diplomats from the U.S.
Shall we stay on Syria? When we are through with Syria, maybe I can say a few words
Ambassador, about that next step, about if this ceasefire, let's say, if halted, for how long you expect the peace process and Geneva starts afterwards? Is there a timeline that's been
Of course, I
agreed
can
on?
make no predictions. There is no timeline, I'm sure. The only thing we know is that late January there's going to be a meeting in Astana, and then February 8th, Staffan de Mistura would like to reconvene talks in Geneva.
Mr. Ambassador, a last question. What's Russia's assessment of the status of the ceasefire holding? Are you encouraged? Is there...
I think the initial indications that it's holding adequately.
Is there a possibility that the incoming Trump administration would participate in Astana?
With what?
The incoming.
Well, we hope so. I mean, we clearly stated that, first of all, we believe that it's not just a Russia-Turkey bilateral effort. Definitely Iran is going to participate actively in the preparation of the Astana meeting. You will recall that there was a very important trilateral meeting in Moscow December 20, foreign ministers of Russia, Turkey, and Iran. We hope others will join in. In our mind, Egypt is a country which can join the process of preparation of the meetings in Astana right now. There are others who are very important players. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, maybe some others. So all of them are welcome. And yes, we do expect that the Trump administration, after it comes into the White House on January 20, will be an important participant.
Ambassador, about the expulsion of the diplomats?
Well, you know, the only thing I can say is that I think it's quite scandalous that they chose to go after our kids, you know. They know full well that those two facilities, which they mentioned in their notes, they are vacation facilities for our kids. And this is Christmas time. This is a vacation time for our schools from the 1st of January to the 10th of January. This is the time when the kids go to those two facilities. So to block our access to them just while the holidays were starting, to me was rather cynical. So here go their family values. Thank
Was
you.
your mission here in New York affected by this
I'm sorry?
decision? Was your mission in New York affected by
Only
the
to the
decision?
extent that they are blocking the access to this one facility we have on Long Island.
I want to ask on Libya. I saw your minister quoted that Martin Kobler is ineffective and that Haftar could be part of the government. Is there some? Do you plan in 2017 some changes with?
Oh,
the
I'm
functional
sure.
mission?
I'm sure there is going to be rather serious activity around Libya in the coming year, but I cannot predict how it's going to evolve. And Haftar, yes, he's a very important player there, obviously. Thank you.